Welcome into Inside LAFC podcast. I am Max Bretos. We are joined, as always, by Steve Beitashour, who had a very big midweek. I'm sorry I missed it, Beta.
But I was a little sad. I didn't get to see you after all these, Zoom meetings. I was excited just to see you, Max, and I didn't get to see you, but it's okay.
But how did it go? I mean, from my perspective, I watched the game. You could see the sound and the excitement from the crowd. When you walked in, what was it like?
It was amazing. It was like I never left. It's always nice coming back to see old friends, the fans. Anytime you're there from the start, the inaugural season in 2018, you help build something. And so it was really cool to go back and obviously see the staff, front office, players, but the fans. It was really cool and a warm reception, which I really appreciated.
You got to make the rounds there for the north end and the 3252.
I did make my rounds. I wanted to go in there, but I did have my kids with me, and they're young, and so it would have been difficult to take them in there as well. I know you're probably like, just get them in there.
Get them in there.
Yeah. They
a little hair on their chest.
it was late for them as well, so we didn't want to ruin the moment. But I did go say hello. Yeah.
Hey, you looked very good in that third kit.
How cool is that third kit? I was very excited that they gave me one, and pictures, when you see things over the computer or on your phone, you're like, oh yeah, that looks good, but in person, even better. Very nice.
Have you worn it again around town?
Yeah, I haven't taken it off. I just wear it every day. No,
beautiful stuff.
I have not, but if I get invited to another game, I'll be rocking it again. So
very good. Let's see what we can do with regards to that. But it was an incredible day, and that was part of a huge week for LAFC, which ended with a 3-0 victory over the Seattle Sounders. We'll talk about that here in a moment. I do have to mention we have a cracking show. Of course, we have Beta, which is great on its own merits, but we'll be joined by John Thorrington from All-Star festivities in Columbus, Ohio. We'll get his thoughts about the season so far, the new players, the players that are coming, and what lies on the horizon for LAFC. All very exciting stuff, all coming your way. So we'll keep you abreast to all of that. But let's get into this Beta and this game against the Sounders, because everyone was worried, and people are, after everything was going so well for the black and gold, now they, you lose to Columbus, lose pretty badly. The Real Salt Lake tie, a game with all the fanfare and Beta there. I mean, we're supposed to get the 3 points. It didn't happen. But then this Sounders game comes along. It was a little different. 3 center backs. It was like a 3-4-3 or a 5-3-2. You had the fullbacks going forward. Timothy Tillman unavailable. Kike Oliveira unavailable. And they started Nate Ordaz, who actually was involved in the penalty, which swung everything. But this is against a Sounders team playing very well, one of the hottest, if not the hottest team. And you know about it. You were there for the first game up in Seattle. This is a big way to get everything back on track.
Yeah, this is one of those natural rivalries that just occurred ever since LAFC came into the league in 2018. You just have 2 top teams that have high expectations, and it's always going to be a battle, regardless of standings. But you mentioned it. Seattle, they've won their last 5 games going into that game at home, where they always have a very good record. And LAFC, the last 2 games, we talked about the Columbus one where they struggled. And then the Salt Lake game, they weren't firing on all cylinders that day. I know a draw is a draw, so not terrible, but at home, they expect to get 3 points. So you're going into it with 2 meh results. And what you go and put out 3-0. At Seattle. Very impressive. They played well, different formation like you mentioned. I kind of call it a 3-5-2, but you can say 3-4-3, but they played well. I really like that, having that third center back pairing. I think it gave Seattle some fits to start with. Towards the end, when they were throwing all these numbers forward, they had some chances. But the best thing about that performance was that clean sheet at the end, where you see Lloris making a couple good saves to keep it. And then my boy Sergio Palencia, goal line save, and how pumped everyone was. The center backs are celebrating with him. The goalie's celebrating with him. On one, Kai Kamara celebrating with him. I'm like, that's what it's about. right? You got the win. You got the 3 points. But getting the clean sheet, I love seeing that. As a former defender, I loved it.
Sergi Palencia, John Thorrington, a little bit later, says something about him that you really have to stick around because it is very high praise. We'll get to that. And I don't want to spoil it. You have to listen to the whole podcast, which I know you guys all do because it's all so good. This is I want to ask you this because LAFC is going to play the Sounders next month, end of the month, in the U.S. Open Cup, again up there in the Pacific Northwest. LAFC's beaten the Sounders twice. Is this true what they say? Is it so hard to beat a team 3 times? I know it's what, and does that something as players think about? Hey, we've beaten them twice. We can't do it 3 times.
It is something that you think about, you try not to talk about, but when all the media and all the outside noise starts bringing it up, you start thinking about it more. It is what it is. Some games are during the league, some games are tournaments. So you can have Open Cup, you have the Leagues Cup. And so everyone has its own little extra motivation. But for me, anytime you play a team more than once, you're like, you know what, they beat us last time. We have to get some redemption. And so you would think the last time they would have done that, but now it's like, oh, can they beat us 3 times, or are we about to lose 3 times? So you have to use any material you can. They always talk about that, like the whiteboard. What can you put on that whiteboard for extra motivation? So both teams are going to be using that right now.
Do you think that we'll see more of the 3 center backs? Because that was, obviously shorthanded. And I think Steve Cherundolo afterwards said that he would look into that as well. This was the lineup he wanted, regardless of who was available or not. But in the right situation, an away game where you may not have your full personnel, this is something he might lean into again?
Depending on the circumstance, home and away. I think at home you want to have more attackers on the field and be more aggressive. But on the road, I love seeing the 3 center backs, just an extra big body out there. You don't have to, have a game that's back and forth and you're really spread out, where it's a little bit more compact. You're more dense. They can't play through you. They got to go around. So it's the circumstance and also what the opposition does as far as their formation. What type of rhythm are they in during the season and what kind of players do they have? So again, that formation, I've played it, a couple years in Toronto and I loved it. And there's teams that I've had where we switch back and forth, but there's other teams like that Toronto team in 2017. We were just, every game was 3-5-2 and we did well with it. But right now I think LAFC, a 4-3-3 fits them the best, but on the road, I wouldn't mind seeing a 3-4-3 or 3-5-2 every now and then.
Throwing out a lot of numbers there, Beta. I see.
It is. I just got into my coaching head right there. Sorry if I threw you guys off.
Oh, we got it. We followed it. And maybe in that Open Cup game, which we'll talk about more in later podcasts, we could see that. But the LAFC has 3 center backs they can throw out. They could probably put Eddie Segura back there as well. But that's basically the allotment of guys. So if Timothy Tillman's available, I don't have anything too new about what his situation is, but hopefully we'll see him back here again. It made sense because you have Ilie and Eduardo Tuesta, and you get those fullbacks to give him a little bit more of a pack there in the midfield. So it certainly worked. I got to tell you, we did get some news about Matty Bogusz, your team MVP. I think more and more people are agreeing with you. It is officially the MLS goal of the week. It was an odd goal. It's a goal that you don't see too often. He hit it pretty clean. It felt like that's exactly where he wanted to put it, and it took the Sounders off. I mean, it took a bounce, and they were just like deer in headlights, feet in the mud.
Yeah, everyone took notice except for the league, apparently, because he should have been in there. I know you didn't bring it up, but he should have been an all-star anyways.
I was going to bring it up.
He deservingly got goal of the week. It was a good goal. It was a tricky one. You almost saw him adjust his feet real quick, and he didn't lace it. He almost opened up his foot and hit it with the inside of the foot just to place it into that corner, it's quick thinking, first of all, but it's a lot of technique that he knows. If I open up my foot and put this into the corner, even though it bounced, no one can get to it. If I take a touch, or if I lace this, there's more room for error. So it was a real cautious but quick thinking strike that I think that part deserves a lot of credit. No one's ever going to talk about that part. They just see the strike and they're like, oh, fantastic goal. But I as that ball's going, I can see what his train of thought was. All right, don't lace it, rip it because the goal is open. Just cushion it right over everyone, bounces in, perfect. Really good goal.
Lionel Messi and another player unable to go to the All-Star, so there was two replacement players. One was Gabriel Peck, who's been amazing for the Galaxy. I have no issue. And the other one's Peter Musa, who plays for FC Dallas. He's been okay. But even Peck, I don't think either one of those are more deserving than Matty Bogusz, because he is entering, if he keeps this pace, I think it's 10 straight games with a goal contribution or something like that. He keeps this pace, he's going to be a league MVP candidate. I would consider voting for him. And all due respect to Denny Bwanga, but this has been a great 1-2 punch. But Matty Bogusz is just taken to another stratosphere. If he keeps playing like this, he's going to be a bona fide MVP candidate. And he is going to be, I'm just saying this because the player profile, he could be a record transfer for the league. Because if you want, not that he's going to go, I'm not saying that, but if you're a club in wherever, England or Italy or Spain, countries that he's played in, you're going to have a big price tag to get a guy who can play left wing, number 10, false 9, left foot, right foot. We don't see this in any league, a guy that has been this good over 2 months.
And not just play them, but play them very well. He's excelled at all those positions. And again, we talk about this. It feels like every week. These aren't tap-ins that he's scoring. These are difficult goals. He can score from outside the box, inside the box, free kicks. He doesn't get too many opportunities for penalties. Bwanga's usually on penalties. So he's the manner in which he scored goals, gets assists, again, is why I think he is team MVP. He showed up when the team needed him the most. And so to go off what you're saying, yes, Peck, okay, fine. He deserved it as well. I still think Bogusz deserved it more, but you can put him in. But then to bring in the guy from Dallas, and I'm just like, what do you have? 10 goals on the season? I'm just like, and you're the main striker. I had a tough time taking that one in. I'm sorry, but I don't get a vote. Otherwise, Matty, you would have my vote.
I know they don't want to put there's 29 teams in this league, and they don't want to put too many LAFC players or too many Inter Miami players. I get it, but I mean, it's been that deserving. And Denny Bwanga absolutely is an all-star. Hugo Lloris is there. I mean, you look at the what he's been able to do with the clean sheets and goals against average. He certainly is deserving. Maybe a different guy, but I think you want Hugo Lloris there. You got to have Matty Bogusz. But water under the bridge. He stays here. He gets to rest up a little bit and be ready for the Leagues Cup, which will start on Friday. BMO Stadium against Cholos of Tijuana. Check it out. Let's see. Let's make it a nice raw. This is going to be an incredible tournament. 47 teams. Let's see if LAFC can lift it. It's a lot of trophies that they're in for. They're certainly a high up there for winning MLS Cup, Leagues Cup. They're in a semifinal of the U.S. Open Cup. We are at the All-Star break here. And break's not the right word because it's less than a week between LAFC games. There's 6 days. I want your All-Star week reflections. Give me a couple top-line stories for LAFC, big ticket ones that they are in position to achieve. I'll give you one that I thought of, Beta. At the beginning of the season, how LAFC played the same guys, and they only had like 12 guys that they would play. This was February and March. Now they went to 16, and now they're like at 17, 18, 19, and they're going to get Giroud that could get high. To me, this is the sign of a club. And Steve Cherundolo said this a lot all season. We're just not deep enough yet, but they're deep now. And I get the feeling this is going to be very hard to crack this starting 11, which is a good thing if you want to be a successful team. What do you see as a big ticket item here for the Black and Gold?
It definitely is a good thing. If you want to compete for that supporter shield, you need depth. If you want to go far in the playoffs, obviously you hope that everyone's healthy come playoff time. But at the end of the day, it's a long season. It's taxing. And sometimes you have guys missing. So the fact that they have, you mentioned it, 17, 18, 19 guys that are more than capable of starting. Like if you put those guys that aren't starting right now on other teams, they'd be starters. So they're on the bench over here fighting and scrapping for a few minutes here or there and a start here or there. It just shows you how deep this team is. What a good job John Thorrington did putting this crew together in a difficult league with the salary cap and the budgets that they have. And so now it's up to guys to stay motivated, continue to work hard. Now you're in that final 10-ish games left stretch. And now it's just, okay, stay motivated, stay healthy, compete, and get ready for the big prize. You have the Leagues Cup, you have Open Cup, and then you have MLS Cup. So, and don't forget Supporter Shield throughout the season. So you got 4 potential trophies, 10 games left, and you want to win them all. But expectations are you can't. So let's try to get
Why not?
1, 2, 3, 4s. 4 is tough. There's I don't want to toot my own horn, but there's only been one team to win the treble, and that was in 2017. There's a reason there's only been one team. It's very difficult to stay healthy, to have depth, and just sometimes you need fortune. Again, I talk about playoffs all the time. You can get lucky and win the playoffs. You can't get lucky and win Supporter Shield. That's why it's more difficult. You have to be the best team for 34 weeks. So it's a bit of all that. You need all that to win all those trophies. And so it'll be difficult. I think if they can, get 1 or 2 of those, it's a heck of a season.
I agree with that. And we look at the trophies that are on offer and which are the most likely. The U.S. Open Cup, 2 wins and they win it. And if they beat Seattle, which is a big if, because we said about the 3 wins and it's up there again. If they get the final, they will be at home against Indy 11 or Sporting Kansas City. To me, if they make the final, they're winning the Open Cup. So it's one game to a trophy there, really. All due respect to Indy 11 and Sporting Kansas City. MLS Cup, I think, is very realistic because the West, they've beaten the Galaxy a couple times. I think they'll feel confident if they can finish ahead of them. Real Salt Lake, we'll see. It's hard to they played it twice. And RSL 1-1, and it's tied. I still like their chances to win the West. You have an MLS Cup. Leagues Cup, it's a crapshoot, 47 teams. And Supporter Shield, you're going to have to do very well to catch Inter Miami, which you're going to get healthy. So, if I had to pick 2, Open Cup, MLS Cup, you just don't want to end up empty-handed here.
No, but I honestly agree with you. Of the 2, I think those are the most feasible. When you look at the stretch of the entire season, but then you take away, you have these tournaments, these little side quests, and Leagues Cup comes up, and it's difficult, right? You're playing a lot of games back to back with different opponents that you're not typically used to, with the Liga MX teams, and it's tough. But not saying they can't do it. I just don't want people just expecting, hey, there's four trophies out there. We have to win all 4. Otherwise, it's a bust. No, it's been a very good season. So, regardless, they should be happy.
We'll circle back to that in a moment. But I want to talk about Leagues Cup. It's going to be here on Friday. We have a game against Tijuana, which everyone's excited about to play Liga MX. That's the appeal of Leagues Cup. And then the other team in the group is the Vancouver Whitecaps. So they play Friday. They play the following Tuesday, finish in the top 2 in the group, and then you get into the tournament, which is 32 teams, and then you got to advance out there. This is a tournament unlike any other. After 90 minutes, you go to penalties to get more points to make sure you get through. The good news is LAFC play both these games at home. The Whitecaps is a team that they've played a lot and had a lot of success. Tijuana is a good team in Mexico, not one of the elite teams. You avoided, obviously, Monterrey, Tigres, Club America. Those are the big 3 in Mexico, and then some other ones. But it would be stunning, I would imagine, if they don't at least get to the tournament. Remember last year, because they won MLS Cup, they were already in that 32-team tournament. But they have to qualify this time. I mean, how do you feel about Leagues Cup? I mean, it's new, it's shiny, and it's huge. Huge in the amount of teams that are playing.
Yeah, you'd expect LAFC to get, quote unquote, into the tournament. This is obviously the qualifying stages right now, but 2 games at home, regardless who they're against, you expect LAFC to at least win one, draw one here in. But but yeah, I don't know how I feel about extra games. And, thankfully for LAFC, they're at home, but Vancouver's going to have to travel. Tigres, obviously, all their games are over here, so they're going to have to be traveling a lot as well. Uh, guys in general, not just MLS, other leagues overseas, they're talking about just all these extra competitions that are coming up and all these extra games and travel. And now you're getting players hurt. And for me, I played a lot of my career just trying to stay healthy so that I was available to play. But now you're getting guys that maybe didn't have that same mindset, and they're going to have to kind of flip the switch. Like, okay, now it's just all about staying healthy. And when you put extra games, you're having more opportunities, unfortunately, that something can go wrong. So I'm kind of mixed between it. I love watching the games. I think it's great. I love the extra tournaments, and there's prize money for the winners. There's more games for fans to watch. There's more trophies for everybody. But at the same time, I'm like, take it easy with all these games that you're throwing on the guys, unless you're going to rotate. But sometimes you just can't.
Well, there's a chance if you get a deep run to make everyone happy, and Olivier Giroud will make his debut in the Leagues Cup. I don't know when, but it will be somewhere along the lines, unless they get knocked out, which isn't going to happen. It's not going to happen. No, and you can get to the CONCACAF. I mean, I think that's another thing. It's that LAFC wants to get back into the CONCACAF Champions Cup. This is a way to do it. If you make the semifinals and you win the third place game, or if you make the final, you are in. So it depends how well they do it. But just your thought about being an MLS player, and you spent your career with this league, and obviously it's meant a lot to you. But getting excited to face Liga MX, talk about how's that rivalry? Do you feel for MLS players when they say you want to beat your friends to the south?
Yeah, when I started in this league, it was a big difference with Liga MX teams and MLS teams. Everyone knew it. Like, they just had a better team. Every one of their teams were better than us. And so it wasn't really a competition. We obviously, there was, the butting of heads, like, okay, we still want to beat you guys because you guys are the big brothers and you guys are, supposed to be better than us. Now it's almost flipped. I do feel MLS teams are the better teams. And now Liga MX are, their pride is hurt a little bit. They need to prove something, like, hey, we're still the big brothers. You guys aren't better than us. So the competition has increased just because of that alone. But now you put the trophies, you have an opportunity again to Champions League. You get a big prize money. I think that was the best way they could have done it and made sure that guys wanted to compete and be part of it, is you get a big prize money. Who's going to say no to that? So I do enjoy that part of it, that guys are actually trying. You can see they want to win. The natural competition with these Liga MX teams, it's there. You can sense it. But yeah, it's another opportunity for fans to watch, just for them to be excited about, your best players against their best players, and then the bragging rights. That's never going to stop. You've seen it for forever. People always want to say, no, my league is better than your league. So it's fun.
It's a month out of the season. LAFC has 10 MLS games. So once the Leagues Cup's over, you're getting ready for the playoffs. But the MLS season doesn't kick off until the last week of August. So it's a good habit to not get knocked out early, because then you're going to have 3 weeks of training, because other teams are going to be playing in the Leagues Cup. Last year, by the way, it was an all MLS final. Inter Miami and Messi beat Nashville. So I think the Liga MX teams are going to be fired up. They have a disadvantage because they play all the games in MLS. I understand that. But they're going to be fired up. But, I mean, if you get knocked out, say, the round of 32, and then you're sitting home, and this tournament's still going on, and we're going to train all week.
It's the worst. I'm telling you right now, the last thing you want to do is have that much time off in the middle of the season, because you're just going to train, and it might be double days. And it's like preseason again. Nobody likes preseason. You're playing these scrimmages. They're pointless. They mean nothing. And then you're just training and a lot of running. Like, it's just to stay fit, right? Because now you're getting into crunch time.
Yeah. So you can't be match fit, right? You can't duplicate match fitness.
You can't. You can train all you want, but the only way to get game fit is to play in games. And so I'm telling you guys right now, fans listening, the guys do not want to lose. They don't want to lose, obviously, at all. But right now, if you lose this early in the round of 32, you have a big stretch of just
Right.
practice. Nobody likes to just practice.
Round of 32, let alone the group stages. You don't want to get knocked out there.
Yeah.
And I think LAFC were pumped about making the quarterfinals last year. They still talk about a game against Monterrey at the Rose Bowl. That's pretty cool. So I think, once it gets going, you'll see the enthusiasm. We kind of touched on this, but I just want to hear it and confirm it. Stamp your approval here. The 2024 season is a success for LAFC if
they get one trophy. I know fans are going to want more. And look, I understand we always want more. But you have 4 trophies, I think we said. You have 4 trophies available out there. If you get any of them, I would be proud and just honored to have won one of those trophies, because they're not easy. It's not easy to just win trophies. I think sometimes when you put LAFC in this category of success in their new team, you instantly think they have to win every game. They have to win every trophy, which is a good thing. Don't get me wrong. That's a good thing. But you have to temper expectations just a little bit and understand. Messi said this in his time with Barcelona towards the end. Like, I hope you guys realize what we're doing, how special it is, and how difficult it is. Don't forget these moments. And look, when he left, they struggled a little bit to continue to win those trophies. And so if LAFC wins one of those 4, whether it's Leagues Cup, Open Cup, Supporters Shield, MLS Cup, it's a successful year.
I think that's a great advice. We can't get greedy here. It maybe depends which trophy, but you don't want to be left without a trophy. Maybe you win a trophy. Maybe a different way to phrase it: don't get left empty-handed. Win a trophy and didn't do well in the other ones. Come close, because as you said, they're very hard. We'll see, man. We're all pumped up. Leagues Cup, Open Cup, second half of the final stretch of the season, and we'll be along for the ride. Well done, Beta. Next time, be wearing that third kit jersey.
I should have worn it. I have it with me. I should have worn it.
I got to still pick up mine. It was there at the stadium. I got to pick up. I got to get Pat.
You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. It's
gonna
so
have spaghetti
clean.
stains on it for me eating it. Very nice.
Yeah.
We are just getting started. Well, we're not just getting started. But we have a lot of show left to do. When we return, co-president, general manager John Thorrington to talk about the state of the team, where they've gone, where they're headed, what his idea of success will be. That's next on Inside LAFC Podcast.
Inside LAFC Podcast is presented by Freeway Insurance, driving savings.
Welcome back, Inside LAFC Podcast, and John Thorrington, co-president and general manager of LAFC, joining us from All-Star in Columbus. It's the All-Star break, but let's be honest, John, there's no break here in this season.
No, certainly not. Certainly not for us this year. It's one thing for me to travel, which I'm happy to do, missing family aside. But yeah, it's really exciting to have 2 players named in Denis and Ugo. But a quick turnaround from Wednesday to Friday, that's for sure.
This is an unofficial break. There's only 10 games remaining in the MLS season, but now you have the Leagues Cup. But let's kind of approach it as that unofficial break. Coming off a very impressive win against the Sounders, those old rivals. We'll talk about them again in a game that's coming up next month. But your view on the season so far, where the club is and where the expectations might be going.
Yeah, I think it is right. And, whether these come at exactly halfway point of the season or not, I do think it is important that for us to step back and reflect on where we are relative to our goals and constantly run that situational analysis of what our goals are, what do we need to get there, and then are we getting there? And so I think now is an appropriate time as we shift gears somewhat, not necessarily with a lot of time to do so, but as we shift gears a little bit and focus on Leagues Cup for the next number of weeks, it is opportune for us to look back. So I'm glad you asked the question. And yeah, our season has kind of come in a few different phases. I think going back, I think we were late to preseason on account of the final and guys needing their adequate rest in the offseason, getting some new blood in, and not having quite as much time in preseason as the coaches and the players maybe would have liked or that they're accustomed to in the past. But for a number of reasons, I think we started slow, certainly relative to our seasons in the past. And that was a real challenge for us. It was not something we'd ever dealt with before. And, I think as we, relative again to our normal standards, sputtered out of the gates, I think we were faced with this sort of challenge, and there was a lot of inconsistency. In the midst of that, we had some really good home form, and I think we maintained this really strong record and performances at home and with some individual games, but our level of consistency was just not where we wanted it to be. And I think that all came to a head in the away game against San Jose, where we were left really disappointed in the result and performance and what have you. So I think from that moment on, you just saw a renewed sense of hunger and desire to really fix what was plaguing us. And I think the coaches, Steve and the staff, did a great job. And then ultimately the players of really rallying together and understanding what we needed to fix. And again, where do we want to be? It's not where we were middling in the table. And that kickstarted a really impressive, historic for us, run of results where not only just going unbeaten, but only drawing the one game in Austin, which, we because we are who we are, we're disappointed even to draw that match. But was a really impressive run, and credit to the players, credit to the staff for that run. Some really impressive home victories, as well as adding consistency on the road. I think that's what we were lacking in the initial part of the season, and dealt with some congestion for sure at times. I think that the medical staff deserves a lot of credit in terms of keeping guys relatively healthy, making sure that the coaching staff had as full a squad as possible to choose from, which really helped us in that busy stretch of games. And then, the surprising result of all was, and performance even, was, falling on our face against Columbus, which was really surprising to me, and I know a lot of people. And, I hope and trust it was a one-off, and I'll treat it as such unless proven otherwise. And I think you've already seen a reaction, and, these guys are competitors. That's why they've had the success they've had, and we've had the success we've had. They're competitors, and they, getting punched in the face and getting knocked down, and how do you respond? And, I again don't think we were still in a bit of shell shock against Salt Lake. You didn't see the typical LAFC in that match either. And then you head into this game against Seattle, and it's one of these moments where you're thinking you can get caught in this roller coaster, and it's almost this binary outcome of, if this doesn't go well, then the sky's falling. Which we don't believe, but I think that was the prevailing sentiment around the team, but not in the team. And to go to Seattle, which to me is one of the hardest places to play, having done it myself, but now certainly with LAFC, a good team, no matter where they are in the table, it's always a battle. And for the guys to dig deep and play the way we did and manage the game the way we did in the circumstances, coming off of two disappointing performances, was really encouraging. And I think I'm highlighting specific games in my review of the whole beginning 2/3 of the season, because I do think that was emblematic of what we've seen. We've seen this team play really well, and then when it hasn't gone as well, you sort of took it on the chin. But then the response, which this team has always shown, we saw on Saturday night, and I think we'll see continue into Leagues Cup and then the remainder of the league season.
I think it's a good jumping off point, John, because as you said, the club really started to firm up with the roster over the last few weeks, and this week in particular against a Sounders team that was in form. Certainly a result you'd look back at, and maybe the guys get another crack at Columbus down the road. We shall see. But we looked at the roster.
I hope so.
We hope so. That would
we owe them two.
Hopefully in LA too. We shall see. This team, it was in talking to Coach Cherundolo, and they were, firming it up. And at the beginning of the year, it was the same lineup a lot of the times, because it wasn't like in 2022 where you had this big crop of new players to help you, springboard to that championship season. But it's felt like you've had a big group going back to Hugo Lloris, and then the additions like Maxime Chanot and David Martinez, Kai Kamara, who has been a big part here. Even Eddie Segura, who was coming back from injury, Eduard Atuesta back here on loan in his second stint. When we look at that group of players, I mean, how have you judged the impact they have been able to make?
Yeah, I think it varies per individual, but what I do think what we see is the way we do things at LA, as much as we want as much continuity as possible, we strive for that. It's just not sustainable all the time. And so we did have quite a bit of turnover, and what we were really focused on is keying on specific individuals and positions that we thought would really help us. We started with Ugo once we realized that Max was not going to be coming back. And I think, he's here in Columbus, well-deserved All-Star. I think he's had a number of performances you could choose from, but Saturday, I think, is probably preeminent, not just because it was recent in my mind of just what a fantastic goalkeeper he is. The save he makes late in the second half where he makes an incredible reaction save and then has the wherewithal to get up and clear it off the line with his foot on the ground. I think it's just a phenomenal play. I think Ugo's leadership is continuing. The impact of his leadership is really continuing to grow. I know games like Wednesday coming off of Saturday, having guys like Ugo is really helpful for what is largely a younger group. So I think, Ugo has been a huge help. I think when you see turnover and you see things like we don't necessarily want, but a guy like Cheeky Palacios, who has an amazing offer that we can't compete with to go play abroad. What that affords then is not just us reinvesting into a player like Omar Campos, who I think is really starting to come into his own as a regular contributor, but also it opens the door for a guy like Sergi Palencia, who for me is arguably the best right back in the league in his play so far this year. I just think his level of his competitiveness, his professionalism, his quality, I think just brings so much to the team. So we're always mindful of that maybe last year people that don't see and don't have the look backstage of what we have. Sergi was here and we were always hoping this for him. And these things open doors for certain players like, I think Sergi is preeminent in that, seeing the not just the new players like Omar, like Max, like Kai, like David Martinez, these guys that individually have helped Atuesta, but these things like the emergence of Bogusz happen in the midst of this turnover, and guys need to really step up and take a hold of opportunities in front of them. And thankfully, a lot of our guys have. And now, look, do we think we're done and we're set and perfect? By no means. And that's the work right now that's going on constantly with our new technical director is doing a fantastic job in Neil McGuinness. Our scouts that we have always done such a great job in identifying players that we think will help add to this group. We already know Olivier is coming, which is really exciting in the coming weeks. But, as good as this group has shown to be and competing and the hopes of, delivering on these expectations of challenging for trophies, we have Leagues Cup ahead of us. We're in Open Cup. We want to win the West. We want to win the Supporters Shield. And we've placed ourselves in those conversations. And now our job is to continually to raise the bar to meet those lofty expectations that we have at this club.
And you always do. And that's a really great answer to that question, because we focus on the new players, but that year two, as you said, Matty Bogusz and Timothy Tillman, are you surprised about how, because historically in MLS, young European players wouldn't come here. Now they're coming here. Maybe they don't connect, but these two guys have in year two just look so comfortable in this league, dominant in this league.
Yeah, I think there are a number of things. One, again, it's in our player identification, and scouting is in essence an exercise in translation when you're thinking, one thing is from another team in our league to our team. Another thing is from our academy to our team. It's a whole nother thing. We're talking about a foreign country, different environments, different cultures, and how that player will assimilate, not just on the field, off the field, and all the things that contribute to a good performance. And so a lot of that work is done before the guys get here to really understand what it is these players are hoping for in their next steps, making sure that we align on where we see them and what we can offer them and what they want. And Matty and Timmy are two great examples of players that we wouldn't necessarily have got in the past, who, Timmy now has gotten himself in the national team picture, and I think can consider himself hard done by that he wasn't a part of the Copa America squad, biased as I may be. But I do think that Timmy and Matty are examples of guys now in Europe that for whatever reason, not because of talent, but they're not quite rising up at the levels that their talent merits, that we provide that opportunity for them. And who knows, maybe Timmy, Matty, if their ambition is to get back overseas, they certainly have the talent to do that. And we provide the platform for them to continue their development. And, the majority of that credit goes down to the work that these players do in terms of improving and getting better. And you've seen Timmy and Matty both take that next step to become, in my opinion, hard done by, but all-star caliber players in our league. And, some of the credit certainly is due the staff as well, in terms of getting players in, really instructing them on the training ground as to how we play and how we can get the most out of them.
And they look real happy. I mean, that's for people quite a cultural shock that they've been able to look so comfortable here. It's a testament to what the club has been able to do. Looking towards with the secondary market open, we know Olivier is on his way. Maybe give us an idea of how the introduction for him into the squad is going to look like. And is there other movements that LAFC are looking to do here for the business end of the season?
Yeah, so Olivier, we're finalizing the exact date of integration. Obviously, he's had a long season at Milan and then competing with France in the Euros. It's a big move for somebody that's never left Europe. He's moving here with his family. They're all very excited to be here. We're very excited to welcome them, which will happen in the coming weeks. And then he'll be ready to hit the ground running. He needs a break mentally, physically from the season he's had in order to give us that fresh boost that we know he'll bring once he gets here. So that plan is underway. He'll be here in the coming weeks, and we expect to see him in early August, if not before. And then when it comes to this window, we just announced earlier this afternoon the sale of Fall to Barcelona, which was long in the works. And we're really excited about that. That's, another example of us, players starting a professional journey with us and then going to, not just a top club in the world, but a place where can really help further his development and career. So we're really excited about that for him and for us as a club to be a part of that transaction and that player's career and his trajectory moving forward. And so that will bring in some funds in order to help now go and improve the team. Owners have always proven consistent in their desire to have the best team possible and making the resources available that are needed in order for us to improve. So I think as we look and when we pick up injuries here and there, and I think it tests the depth of the squad like it does any other MLS team, we'll look to add in some key areas, maybe in midfield, maybe another outside back. It's tricky though, Max, is when everybody's healthy and Olivier comes in, you start to think, where are the positions of priority? Because we do feel like we have a really good roster and squad, but things don't always play out perfectly with no injuries, no suspensions, etc. And the more competitive we can make this group day in, day out in training in order to compete for starting spots, I think that will help us in our pursuit of trophies for sure.
Well, that's why I'm not a general manager, because the club looks great to me as is. But I know you guys are always thinking, and then at the end of the season, the guys that you incorporate play some kind of role. So
there's always work to be done, and there are always improvements to be made.
That's all for you, John. That's all for you. I'll just sit here and pop up some questions.
Thankfully, you've perfected the art of punditry and podcasting, so there's no work to be done.
If you say so. The Leagues Cup, after the All-Star break, you have it here. This is a tournament unlike anything we've seen anywhere. 2 leagues combining 3 countries, 47 teams. We had the Copa America, 16 teams. The Euros is 24. This is 47 teams. So it's a huge undertaking. As a traditionalist of MLS, someone who's played in this league from, its infancy, how do you view this Leagues Cup? Because it's like, I think everyone's in it to show that this can work. It's going to be difficult, but can we get where we want to go with this tournament?
Well, I think we certainly saw, again, just a sample size of 1, but we did see a lot of interest last year. And I'm curious to see how that now plays out this year. Certainly it's a competition. I could speak for LAFC. It's one we take very seriously. Like every competition, we want to win. I do really love the challenge of the challenge playing against MLS teams, certainly we love, but this challenge of going toe to toe with the teams in Mexico, it brings different challenges. A lot of teams play a different style that we don't typically face, and players you don't face. So it's a fresh challenge for us as a group that I do think stress tests us. And so we look forward to it. And I think certainly in the hopes of, getting out of our group, which you don't take for granted, we'll have to play well, but getting out of our group, I mean, we were left last year with a bitter taste in our mouth, having lost to Monterrey, being up 2-0 late in the game. And that certainly still feels like that's something we need to correct through our performance this year. You're right. It's a lot of teams. It's a logistical headache trying to wrap your head around. But, I think last year proved successful in terms of generating real interest in the competition. I think media and everybody got the dream with Messi and what have you. And maybe there's a different storyline that captivates everybody this year. I certainly hope it's one that involves LAFC winning the trophy.
I'm excited because when you look at the field, I mean, it's heavy hitters from MLS and Liga MX. Very cool. It's going to be a little trickier for LAFC as they have to – they don't join in the round of 32. They got to get through. But the two games at home starting Friday against Cholos of Tijuana, so you get one of those Liga MX teams. That's got to be fun. For the LA locals, too, to see a team that, many of them watch on a regular basis. As we know, we have a lot of Liga MX supporters within our fan base, too.
It's as local a rival as we can have for a Mexican team.
We don't. Maybe they do a bus trip. Who knows? Probably not. Back to a more traditional route. The Open Cup, big game here, August 27th. It's going to be in Seattle. The team that you've beaten twice this year. It's going to be tough to beat three times. It's going to be at the Starfire Complex, which is intimate. But that, I know for someone who's played in a lot of Open Cup games, that's got to fire you up. Not just that it's a semi, the setting, but then two of the heavy hitters in MLS for a spot in the final.
Yeah, it's certainly a tournament Seattle's taken seriously from there. I've won twice, 3 times since they started. And so it's certainly a tournament we know they take seriously. We're both in the semifinals. For us, we know that it's a chance to host a final, provided we go through, but that's a tall order. It'll be at a different environment. It'll be tight. I think it's 5,000 people. It's a different surface, something a bit different for not just our players, but theirs. And certainly a challenge that we will be up for and looking forward to because, again, every competition we're in, we want to win. And certainly know what's on the line is a chance to raise another trophy at home if we play like we can against Seattle in the semis.
That's the payoff. Beat Seattle. It will be at BMO Stadium in September for the final. So we'll see. That's going to be a tough one up there.
And a few of us were around with the analogous scenario away in Houston in
2018, where they made
we were going to host the final. We would have hosted the final and ended up losing in penalties in Houston. So it's again this theme of retribution keeps coming up.
And the reflection as well, because when that game happened, we were just starting as a club, and then we think about that. We think about these games and the victories and the close calls, and it's
a blessing and a curse.
Yes, it's all part of the history. A quick one about the business of LAFC. We know the stadium is functioning at an incredible level with a lot of exciting things on the horizon. We know LA with the World Cup, and then LA with an Olympics, and LAFC is all going to play a role. How excited are you about what LAFC's role is in this city, in this sport over the next 2-4 years?
Yeah, I distill our company goals into a few very simple things, and I think winning is a general goal, but that's not just winning off the field, which is easy to measure and is probably what's most obvious in terms of visibility. But I do think as an organization, we always talk about winning off the field. Like it's not just what we do on the field, but it's our connection with our community, the impact we have and what have you. So I think that's something that maybe is not quite as visible, but it is absolutely critical of us being a force for good, of our real connectivity with not just our supporters, but the city as a whole, and some of the things that, we're given this platform and a voice and an ability to really make an impact. And I think it starts with ownership and their real desire to have a lasting and positive legacy within Los Angeles. And that comes straight down through the executive team and into every single one of our employees, into the foundation, et cetera. So I certainly think winning off the field is an absolutely critical component to our goals and objectives as a company. And then your point about the business of LAFC, and I don't like calling them sides, because I think one thing that we pride ourselves on is that we are not a business and a sport that collide at home games and then go our separate way. I think I work very closely alongside Larry. We have a really good executive team with Stacy and a really good senior management group that stays very connected in terms of what we're doing, and everything is linked, and our goals are not separate, but they're very much intertwined. And, our sale of Fall and our efficient use of resources on player spend really help the business. And so we're really intertwined, and the better business we run, the better we are able to have a competitive team in terms of the resources available for players and staff and what have you. So it's something that I think we do to great effect. I'm not taking the credit myself. I just think it is the way we've operated from the beginning, and it's down to some very highly capable people working in a really collaborative way that are on the same page, understanding that we need to run a good business. And I know our business metrics are, indexed very, very well within our league, and even against some of the other top 4 leagues. And for us, that's a real driver for what we're able to do on the field. So I just consider myself very privileged to be a part of this organization, working for some amazing owners as well as alongside an executive team. And I actually say, we work for the people of LAFC, and have some incredibly bright people. And we just need to make sure that they have the ability to do what they're capable of. And they have shown that they're more than capable of delivering some fantastic results.
Well, it's great to be here to have these conversations with you, John, being part of the club as well. But how many concerts have you been to BMO? I know you're at Odessa, and you said you went to the. How great is it to see a show there?
A show there. So I think we understand the impact of our beautiful carpet of a pitch at BMO. I will say that a lot of investment has gone in. Thank you to the ownership of investing in some of the best technology we have globally, in terms of protecting our pitch and what have you, because we are a football club, and that's our primary business and goal and what have you. Having said that, concert at BMO is
football first. Football first.
There is no better night in Los Angeles, and this is someone who's lived in the city. Granted, I took a 20-year hiatus in my own career and what have you, but moved here since I was 2. There is no better night in Los Angeles than having a nice meal at one of our amazing restaurants downtown, wherever, and ending at BMO for a concert. It cannot be beat.
Clip that off. We're gonna put that on. It's always great to chat with you, John, and for you being so open. One last question: your thoughts on the third kit, which has been getting such rave reviews, and I imagine you've got one. You're gonna look pretty. Look pretty dapper in it.
I appreciate that, Max. I'm gonna start blushing here, but so I'm fortunate that I get some sneak peeks at some of these kits. I'm not gonna say which ones and what have you, but there's some I'm more excited about and less excited about, and I leave that to the artistic folks, but certainly they are gracious enough to ask my opinion. And this one was a grand slam from the jump for me. I think it was, it pays homage to the soccer culture in LA, and I think they did a really good job of imagining that what would LAFC look like back in those years. And it's just the color scheme, the style, it almost has an Aviator Nation vibe to it. So it kind of hits on a number of points that I just think was a home run. And I just want to wear it more and more. I just love, we didn't start with a win in it, but we're undefeated in it, and I hope we're able to wear it more. I know the players love it, the supporters love it. So it was a really good job. Our guys in the design team, I think, helped steer Adidas in the right direction. So I'm glad to hear it's being received as favorably as I was hoping.
Football, you had some fashion, you had some music, and a little food there too. So well done.
LAFC. It's a culture.
It's another great night out. Enjoy it. We always enjoy you on the podcast. Thanks for making time for us, especially here. We had a nice, a juicy conversation here. Yeah. John Thorrington, co-president and general manager. Have a great time at All-Star Week, and we'll see you at Leagues Cup.
Thanks, everyone.
John Thorrington, that's all the time we have. We will join you again next week as we get ready for the really serious stuff in the LAFC season. This is Inside LAFC Podcast. On behalf of Beta, I'm Max. We'll see you next time.